Welcome to another episode of Mastering Cybersecurity, developed by baremetalcyber.com. Let's dive in. Penetration testing is a structured security exercise where authorized testers safely attempt to breach systems in order to reveal real weaknesses before criminals do. The hack yourself first mindset treats defenses like living systems that need regular checkups, so gaps are found while the risk is still controllable. A penetration test differs from everyday troubleshooting because it follows a defined plan, produces verifiable evidence, and ends with corrective guidance. For beginners, it helps to imagine a friendly fire drill that proves whether alarms, doors, and response teams actually work. The goal is not to embarrass anyone, but to generate facts that can drive measurable improvements. When organizations practice this mindset consistently, they convert surprises into findings and findings into stronger and calmer operations. Penetration testing is often confused with vulnerability scanning and audits, which serve related but different purposes and deliver different outcomes. A vulnerability scan is an automated sweep that checks systems for known issues and missing patches, producing a list that still needs expert verification. An audit is an independent review against policies or standards that confirms whether required controls exist and are followed. A penetration test focuses on exploitation paths and business impact by attempting to chain weaknesses into realistic access. The test aims to answer what an attacker could actually do today under specified constraints and permissions. Clear separation of these activities helps teams plan budgets, timelines, and expectations without talking past each other. Every ethical test starts with firm legal and safety guardrails that protect people, data, and operations from unintended harm. Written authorization defines who permits the test, which assets are in scope, which methods are acceptable, and when activities may occur. Rules of engagement, ROE, clarify hours, escalation contacts, data handling, and stop conditions if instability appears. Sensitive records should be masked or replaced with agreements for minimal retention and secure disposal of captured evidence. The team should define how far post-exploitation may proceed and which production actions are never allowed. These boundaries create trust and predictability, which are essential when simulating adversary behavior inside live environments. Penetration tests vary by scope and style, and choosing the right combination keeps work relevant and safe for the organization. External tests simulate attacks from the public internet, while internal tests assume a foothold inside the private network and explore lateral movement. Application tests target specific web, mobile, or application programming interfaces and examine authentication, authorization, and input handling. Wireless assessments review access points, encryption, and segmentation between visitor and corporate networks under realistic conditions. Black box testing starts with minimal knowledge. White box testing provides full designs and credentials. And gray box testing offers curated insights to focus effort. The selection should mirror genuine risks, business priorities, and the organization's tolerance for operational exposure. A helpful way to understand the work is to follow a simple life cycle that ties activities to learning goals. Planning aligns scope, success criteria, contacts, timelines, and emergency procedures so surprises are reduced and results are comparable over time. Reconnaissance gathers information that guides paths of approach, while threat modeling evaluates which paths could realistically reach sensitive systems or data. Exploitation uses safe techniques to validate whether predicted weaknesses are actually exploitable under agreed conditions. Post-exploitation explores movement, data access, and impact while minimizing changes and collecting evidence for later analysis. Reporting organizes what happened, why it mattered, and how to fix it, which turns raw findings into decisions. A beginner-friendly path for web application testing starts with mapping the application thoroughly and noting every input and workflow. An intercepting proxy is a testing tool that sits between browser and server, allowing requests and responses to be paused, inspected, and safely modified during analysis. With the proxy, testers explore authentication and session handling, check how privileges are enforced, and observe how the application validates data. Careful input testing looks for predictable issues like reflected content, improper error messages, and incorrect handling of special characters. Session tests verify whether tokens are random, short-lived, and protected by secure transport. Consistent documentation of observed behavior makes later reproduction and developer fixes much easier. A beginner-friendly network path begins by identifying live hosts and exposed services across the agreed scope with conservative timing and volume. Simple patterns like default credentials, legacy protocols, and permissive file shares often create low-effort footholds that attackers exploit reliably. Configuration reviews can reveal unnecessary administrative interfaces reachable from broad network segments, which should be restricted or disabled. Password policy tests may uncover weak or reused credentials that fall to basic guessing or credential stuffing rather than sophisticated exploits. Network segmentation checks help verify whether sensitive systems are isolated or inadvertently reachable due to permissive rules. Each small confirmation builds a chain of understanding that supports later impact analysis and remediation planning. Exploitation is the moment when a suspected weakness is carefully exercised to prove risk under safe and controlled conditions. The aim is to confirm that access can be obtained and to document the minimal steps required to reach that state without causing damage. Once access exists, privilege escalation tests whether the account can gain broader rights through misconfigurations or local flaws that accumulate into serious control gaps. Lateral movement explores whether the foothold can traverse to other systems by reusing tokens, shares, or trust relationships that were not intended for that purpose. Minimal, authorized persistence may be used to maintain temporary access during the test with explicit approval and careful cleanup. Every action is recorded to create a clear trail that supports triage, learning, and retesting. A strong report transforms technical notes into a narrative that decision-makers can read, trust, and act upon promptly. Each finding should include exact reproduction steps, affected assets, and the specific evidence collected during exploitation or observation. Business impact statements connect the technical condition to realistic outcomes such as data exposure, service disruption, or unauthorized financial actions. A simple, explainable risk rating helps teams prioritize fixes based on likelihood and consequence rather than novelty. Proof of concept, POC, details should be precise enough for validation while avoiding unnecessary exposure of sensitive data. Clear remediation guidance names responsible systems, suggests safer configurations, and proposes validation checks that confirm the fix truly works. Remediation and retesting close the loop by proving that changes address causes rather than just symptoms observable during the exercise. Agreeing on fix windows sets expectations for owners and reduces frustration that can follow large finding sets. Change validation confirms that patches were applied correctly, configurations were updated as intended, and no new openings appeared as side effects. Confirmation testing revisits critical paths with the same or improved methods to ensure previous results cannot be reproduced. Ticket traceability links findings to work orders and approvals, which builds organizational memory and audit readiness. A short lessons learned section distills trends and root causes that training and process changes can directly improve. Safe practice environments let beginners build skills without risking production systems or violating laws and agreements. Sanctioned targets are systems intentionally built for learning and are configured to tolerate probing and controlled exploitation without harming bystanders. Test data should be synthetic and reversible so that accidental disclosure carries no real-world consequence and no personal information is mishandled. Controlled networks isolate experiments from business traffic and provide clear logging, which teaches careful measurement and responsible cleanup habits. These habits transfer directly to professional work, where safety and predictability are valued more than flashy techniques. By practicing with these constraints, students learn discipline that later builds trust with colleagues and customers. Penetration testing becomes truly useful when it integrates into an organization's regular security rhythm rather than appearing as a rare event. Frequency should reflect change velocity, with more testing around high-impact releases, acquisitions, and infrastructure shifts that alter risk quickly. Independent third-party testing adds fresh perspective, while internal testing ties results to developer workflows and short feedback loops. Simple outcome metrics help, such as mean time to remediate critical issues and the proportion of recurring root causes observed across consecutive tests. Tying tests to architecture reviews and secure coding checkpoints keeps effort focused on preventing the next class of issues. Over time, this integration converts isolated exercises into a steady driver of quality. Strong programs treat findings as opportunities to raise the bar on design, education, and everyday habits rather than as isolated technical chores. Developers learn which patterns cause the majority of issues and adopt safer defaults that silently remove entire categories of risk. Operations teams adjust monitoring and alerting so that attempted exploits trigger clear signals with low noise, improving confidence during incidents. Product owners adjust priorities with realistic understanding of consequences, customers, and compliance duties shaped by evidence rather than fear. Leadership sees patterns of improvement and funds the practices that moved the needle most reliably over the past cycles. These human changes make technical controls work better because they are used more carefully. Threat modeling extends value by helping teams ask better questions earlier, which reduces surprises during later testing. A threat model is a structured way to identify valuable assets, likely attackers, common paths, and weak controls before software ships or infrastructure changes. Simple diagrams of data flows and trust boundaries reveal where authentication, authorization, and logging matter most. When test planning is informed by these models, teams target the highest leverage areas and collect better evidence. Over time, shared models also serve as living documents that guide future tests and design choices. This steady feedback loop prevents drift by keeping risk discussions concrete and anchored to real systems and behaviors. Communication style can make or break the impact of a well-executed test, so tone and clarity deserve deliberate attention. Findings should be written without blame and should emphasize conditions, causes, and consequences that can be verified objectively. Short summaries at the beginning of the report help busy readers grasp priorities before diving into details. Technical appendices can hold command outputs and logs, keeping the main narrative readable and focused on decisions. During readouts, teams should invite questions, confirm shared understanding, and agree on owners and dates while the context is still fresh. Calm, respectful communication builds credibility, which is the foundation for sustained improvement. As programs mature, scoping decisions will evolve to keep effort focused and benefit high relative to time and cost. Early cycles may aim wide to establish a baseline, while later cycles can concentrate on systems where changes are most frequent or risks are historically higher. Pre-test hygiene matters because up-to-date inventories, credentials, and architecture notes reduce lost time and ambiguous results. Coordinating with change windows and maintenance periods minimizes disruption and allows safe testing of failover and rollback procedures. Cross-team drills that pair testers with engineers shorten the path from finding to fix by sharing context. Each refinement should be captured in planning documents so future tests begin with better starting points. A program that values ethics will also value careful cleanup and complete restoration, which protects trust after the test ends. Cleanup removes test accounts, temporary files, changed configurations, and any artifacts used to maintain access, with checks that confirm nothing remains behind. Logs and screenshots collected as evidence should be stored securely with limited access and clear retention periods that match policy. Debriefs should state what was left in place intentionally for training or monitoring, if anything, and why this choice was safe. These closing behaviors demonstrate respect for systems and people, which strengthens the case for future testing cycles. Respectful endings make respectful beginnings easier the next time the cycle starts. Penetration testing thrives when it is treated as a disciplined practice that reveals how real attacks would unfold under controlled conditions. By defining clear scope, following a measured life cycle, and documenting evidence carefully, teams translate technical work into dependable decisions. The hack-yourself-first mindset turns unknowns into knowns, and knowns into targeted improvements that compound across releases and seasons. With steady practice in safe environments and thoughtful integration into planning, results become faster, clearer, and more actionable. When the cycle ends with cleanup and learning, the next cycle starts stronger and calmer. That is how ethical self-testing builds durable defenses without drama or surprises. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.